Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Rawthentic Radio with Eric and Rylie. Thank you guys for joining us again today. Today, we are doing part 2 of last week's series, or last week's episode, which was Muscle versus Insta Glory. Muscle versus Insta Glory. The whole premise is this, that it's really, really easy in this culture to put our best Insta self forward. Filters, all of the above, our protected self, our best looking self, all of that. And because when we do that, we forfeit growth. We forfeit authority. We forfeit that inner muscle. And we're really trying to create a culture in which you can bring these things forward, and not just for the sake of accountability, but because it will lead to a greater authority in your own life. You'll know who you are. You'll have powerful friendships, and you'll live life in a powerful way. And so today we want to get into how you can practically do that. But first, want to just break down. We understand that this is a hard thing we're talking about. We understand that it's really, really easy to just want to please culture, to please your followers, to please those, not ruffle feathers, and just put the best of the best forward. It's easy to do that. Why? Why do we feel
That's
like
how
it's
we
so
get
easy?
an Insta Glory position?
Oh,
Because we're headed for, when we live that way, we're headed for a position. We're not necessarily headed for character, because it doesn't really take character a lot of times to get a position of influence.
yeah.
You see that in a lot of influencers. Even today, a lot of teenagers, they want to be famous. They don't have a career goal at all. They just want to be famous. So whatever I have to do to get there, I'm all about.
Wow. And I think from our experiences, like we just know, we understand that temptation, and we want to share from our experiences how this has possible to get to, and really the process in which we even got to it. And so lean in, because I think, Eric, you have the way that you have lived your life with me has been so revelatory. It has put me in this search for that in my own life. And we're going to get into a little bit more of our friendship and things like that. But like, why?
I didn't always live that way.
Yeah.
I was probably 20, I want to say I was 22 or 23. I was going to OU recruiting Bible salesmen for a company I worked for.
A Bible salesman?
Yeah. We sold books door to door.
That's incredible.
I made a lot of money doing that.
Wow.
Like $9,000 in 1975, which was for 10 weeks of work. So I was a pretty hard worker.
Dude.
Yep.
That's killing it. You had a bunch of disco outfits then.
Oh, a ton. No, I had no disco outfits.
Oh.
I didn't know how to play.
Oh, okay.
My only play was, I still remember I was at OU. I could take you to the red light. I was waiting at a red light to walk across the street. And I was actually going to go to a place where I knew that you could possibly act out with same-sex attraction.
Gotcha.
Other people interested in that. And I remember I was standing waiting for the light to turn green, and all of a sudden I had the most horrifying thought. I was like, oh my gosh, I think that I have a problem with same-sex attraction. And I was just stunned. I was horrified. I'm like, I don't even know what to do.
Huh.
I had actually been acting out for maybe a year and a half.
With same sex.
Right. But it didn't hit my my consciousness.
Yeah.
Until that point, because I had so many layers of disconnection between myself, between myself and myself.
And that pain.
Right. And there was a ton of pain that I had never acknowledged. And when I began to sort my way back through it, I was molested at 12 by a family friend. Told my father at 14, mainly because I wanted to connect with him.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember being super upset about the molestation. Not that it wasn't, I was not raped. So it didn't feel like it hurt my psyche.
Yeah.
And my folks dearly loved me. That was in the 70s or late 60s.
So
that was like 5 decades ago.
It's rare at that point.
Yeah, to actually come out with that.
Yeah.
And they had no idea what to do. And so they decided to take me. We had a prayer meeting that night. And my folks were very hysterical, very upset. And I remember watching that, just going, wow, what's going on? And then I realized, oh, that's because I told them.
Wow.
I should have kept my mouth shut.
Whoa.
And so the next day they took me to one of my dad's friends who was a chaplain in a town, Amarillo, about 120 miles away from us. And on the way, my mom was like, look, if this gets out, your father, this could impact his job. We might have to move to California.
Wow.
Because she was very shaken by the whole thing. And I just remember thinking, okay, I need to keep that to myself. So
that's Insta glory before Insta was even a thing.
Oh yeah. Tons of Insta glory and pretty dark filter. Mm-hmm. And when my father's friend, who was a chaplain, married guy with 3 kids, also turned out to be a predator, I did exactly what I had made up my mind I was going to do. I kept it to myself.
Wow.
And that was in the days before family counseling. So I was never asked another question about it. My father's friend, Bob, was a guy that my parents trusted. And I didn't want to create a scene like the last one that I had created. I felt like I created it.
So you almost learned your lesson, like stay quiet.
Yep. I also I saw how much it upset them, and I was super confused, and I just stuffed all my feelings inside.
Wow.
And so I pushed all of that down, and then whenever so for the next, we didn't talk about it for the next 7 years. So, and I didn't talk to anyone else about it. So I was silent during those years, and those are your formative years where you're figuring out how to do life, how to handle communication, who's with you, who to identify with, who you can go to for help. But my parents they just did the best they could do, like a lot of parents in that situation. But it wasn't something I learned I needed to handle things by myself.
Yeah. And
then you also, when you listen to what people say about same-sex issues, you get an earful. And so I developed a mask that was super thick, and I could hear anything and not betray how I felt.
You just
I just
rock hard.
Right. And in order to do that, I really developed the ability to detach from feelings. Physical feelings as well. I went through a lot of bullying, and I just learned to shut all feelings down, as well as physical pain.
Wow.
So when I began to, what were you going to say?
No, I want you to keep going.
When I began to, when I realized what was going on, I was horrified. But it wasn't until I was able to go, oh, wow, I think I have an issue. And it's same-sex attraction.
Yeah.
Following that, the Lord began the process for me. But I had so many very strong messages from adult leaders that I respected.
Yeah.
That
influential people.
Yeah. To keep myself quiet.
Yeah.
That I needed to be silent about those things. And the 7 years where I was silent as a teenager, I made a lot of internal vows to survive that. And so then later I actually went into young adult ministry and was also told by my young adult mentor, you need to, if you ever tell anyone what you deal with, you will never be in ministry again. And I was pretty successful in young adult ministry. And so I just learned to keep my thoughts to myself and keep my pain to myself. And I was never able to really realize how deeply my acting out was attached to my pain.
Wow.
And I didn't realize, because I didn't talk to people about all of those things, I didn't realize how much it was a response to that. But it slowly, in the silence, took over my life.
And then you started to go on a process eventually of kind of identifying that, that you're acting out, that SSA, that sin problems, behind the scenes of that was an unidentified pain, correct?
Yeah, and when you say sin problem, it was actually just missing the mark for what I was.
Exactly.
Because we use sin as a pretty punitive word.
Yeah.
Instead of sin actually is a word that opens you to correction.
Yes. Yeah.
And so when I began to realize and identify what was going on, then and only then was God able to begin. He brought a guy into my life who was his name was David Kotkamp. Mm-hmm. And I've lost touch with him through the years. I wish I could find him, but he came into my life and I was so jaded and broken.
Yeah.
And we ended up living together as roommates, and he was just a very powerful change agent to represent the Lord well. He was newly in love with the Lord. I knew the Bible backwards and forwards then. And so he would come home from church and I would just like annihilate him, but I could not make him stop loving me.
Wow.
And that began to change my life. And that's actually been a large part of how I've done life.
Yeah. And just to be clear, that wasn't an SSA relationship. That was completely.
Oh, no.
And you were never in an SSA relationship, really. No. You would act out here and there and make decisions. And I just think, wow, that's an incredibly powerful story, first of all. If people knew, a lot of people can judge somebody based off of a struggle.
Yeah. Or the choices that it feels like they make and they don't really care about.
Yeah.
When sometimes you really don't know what choices you're making.
Exactly.
And what I've come to in the last couple of years is being able to, I had an amazing life coach, Justin Stumval. If you're out there, Justin, hey, I love you. And he really helped me get down to a lot of things. Plus, there were so many other people that the Lord has. I have a bunch of spiritual sons and daughters who've given me a lot of information about myself and some amazing friends. I have a tribe of people who are pretty amazing people.
And I just think it's incredible. And the point we want to make is this, that Insta glory mindset, way of living, way of life. It's so easy to get to for every reason that you just said. Yep. For every reason that he just said, there's people out there who want to put their best foot forward or their best face forward because, man, it's a painful thing to come out with some of these truths or some of these experiences that you've had. And ultimately, that's where you got to that red light, that intersection, both on the street and in life, where you go, oh my gosh, I think I have this attraction, and it's not just a random act out thing. I think there's this attraction. I think because of unidentified pain, I think because we have learned as a culture to hide away those parts of us, refuse to truly be known by people. There's a lot of people walking in identities that were actually never theirs to grab onto.
Right.
And go ahead.
We actually make behavior an identity.
Exactly.
And we class people in faith circles. A lot of times we class people according to behavior, and we will actually call them,
their
different
struggle.
Words by their struggle versus seeing them as a son or a daughter who actually has an issue that they need assistance with. Yeah.
They need people to walk alongside of them with.
Right.
And I just think it's such a powerful testimony of before being known and then now after, because I got the incredible opportunity to meet you 6 years ago, and the way that you lived life, the way that you chose to walk in such integrity and also vulnerability just stuck out to me. And to a lot of people, let's just call a spade a spade. A lot of people would probably think our friendship's weird. Age being one thing, and two, the fact that I don't struggle with SSA and you do.
Right.
And a lot of guys will even, if once they hear that somebody has struggled with something like that or have struggled with an attraction to another guy, they'll run for the hills because what if he's attracted to me?
But you know what? I actually want to throw some kudos out. I actually have a bunch of really sharp spiritual sons and a bunch of friends that's no longer true.
Yeah.
And I think if there's any gift that I've given the kingdom through my vulnerability, it's helping people to see beyond my behavior and my struggle to the authenticity that can occur when God begins to step into a person's life. And even though I've had some ups and downs and some failures, to even in those failures, be authentic and talk those things through and chase them down to how did that actually happen?
Yeah.
Why did that occur?
Yes.
What was actually going on beneath the surface of what the symptom is, which is typically the behavior.
Yeah. And because you've done that so consistently in front of me, telling me, hey, here's my life. Here's my struggles. Here's my everything. And we're willing to be known. It opened me up to this whole new, really, opportunity and door of freedom from my own life. And I think one thing that's important to note is how powerful I need your generation.
When you say freedom in your own life, how did that happen?
Well, I mean, simply just because I think that there was getting to understand Eric the man, apart from Eric the struggle, set me free from, first of all, a lot of judgments, probably, that I had with people with an SSA background. So I got to walk in a freedom because I'm like, oh my gosh, like I know Eric the man, and that's not the same person as Eric the struggle. Yeah. Beyond that, it invited me into a personal freedom from my own life where I was so unaware, just like you were at that light in that intersection that one day where you realize, oh my gosh, I have a problem. Just because I didn't struggle with SSA doesn't mean I didn't need to be known. And I realized as I was talking to you and you're unfolding, at coffee meeting after coffee meeting, you're just telling me these stories and telling me how you live life. I'm realizing we're not that different. Our struggles might be different, but we all have pain. And our pain leads to brokenness. We've all heard the quote, the ground is level at the foot of the cross. We have all missed the mark in some sense or another. And I realized through your story, through the way that you live, not even your story, through who you are, the power that is being offered, that is available to me. If I would simply open my heart up, open myself up in my life and my experiences to be known, not just for transparency or accountability's sake, but because being known allows me to have another set of eyes on my life. And you've been able to point out pains that were connected to some behaviors and some insecurities that I've had and some fears that I've had, which were all connected to some of these pains that were just undealt with. And so when I say your life, your vulnerability offered me freedom, that's what I mean. You opened up the shutters on a window that I didn't even know was there. And that's the power of being known. And I just wanted to reemphasize how powerful that is. And secondly, that oftentimes the greatest gifts come in unexpected packages.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And so you have really impacted my life by your vulnerability, your openness, and your truth with me. And you're continued pursuit and your love for me.
I think that's gone both ways. And I think if there's anything that our friendship hopefully starts opening people's eyes to, is that our generations need one another.
Yeah.
Because your generation, I'm in the boomer generation, and we are used to being in charge, and we would prefer that you don't question us, but if you do, make sure you do it respectfully.
Yeah.
And my answer is the truth.
Yeah.
And we're not to be questioned. And we have a vision for the future. We've lived a lot of years, and pup, you need to sit down and hear what I have to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's basically us.
Yeah.
And I think there's so much, your generation is kind of I don't believe that.
Yeah.
And not only that, I'm not staying. Like, at least the millennials.
Yeah, we're not buying it.
Yeah, the millennials will wave by on their way out the back door to go way out in the middle of worship.
Yeah.
Because they're leaving to go get coffee or, just check Instagram.
Yeah.
The nuns, which is the generation below that. If
Yeah.
you don't know what that is, NONES, look it up.
Yeah.
They're not even going to show up.
They're not even glancing.
They're sleeping in.
Yeah.
And I don't need a podcast either.
Yeah.
And so I would love to see us break that.
Yeah.
But the only way that's going to happen, I remember last year I was having a growth period in my life in May, and we'll unpack that someday too.
Yeah.
And Rylie texted me, and he's like, "Hey, how was your week?"
Oh yeah, I remember this.
It was on a Thursday. He texted me on a Thursday, and I said, "It was great." I said, Saturday was hard, and Monday wasn't great, and Wednesday kind of sucked. But overall, it was a solid week. And Rylie's like,
I'm like, listen to what you just said, bro.
So he sends back to me, what'd you say?
I was like, I think I probably said something along the lines of, okay, so basically then you've had a terrible week.
No, you said, why didn't you call me?
Oh, yeah.
And I responded, what would you have said? And you hit me back with, you don't know.
Because you're never called.
You didn't call.
Yeah.
And then the last text, and this was the knockout punch, it was just like that. It was actually, Eric, it's not what I would have said. It's you choosing to be known in the moment.
In the moment.
And that's so much to millennials. My generation wants to, we want to make sure that we have our suit on we want to have everything perfectly together.
Yeah.
Our little resume, this is my 401k. These are my homes. This is all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And your generation is like, so boring.
Read through it.
So over you. And so it was really powerful for me. That was like an invitation into a level of not just transparency. I manage transparency great.
Yeah.
But into being known in the moment. And I've had other people willing to do that in the past that I've walked with. But that was last May was a breaking moment.
Yeah.
And it was one of those lifetime, am I going to go this way or this way?
A fork.
Yeah. And Rylie had the capacity and the time to step into that with me and then walk that out. And so following that text thread, I just put at 3:30 every day, shitty day, ? Call Rylie.
Yep.
Period. And I forced myself to come into that space.
Yes.
It was not fun. I hated it.
Yeah.
I hated some of the conversations that we had. It was super hard on my pride. You're 30-something years younger than me.
Oh, I thought you were going to call me 30-something years old. And I'm like, hello, I'm 29. Just turned 29.
And this is a millennial. And so there were all kinds of things. Plus, it was so uncomfortable coming into that level of being known on an ongoing basis. Not only answering the questions, but not waiting for a question, stepping forward when I had something that needed to be known.
That's key. Not waiting for me to be like, how you doing?
Right.
Just checking in. But you saying, no. I understand that growth takes intentionality.
Right.
I'm going to put this in my calendar.
Right.
And I think we think that it's really vulnerable to tell this big
To be transparent.
Yeah, we think it's really vulnerable to be transparent about some of these big issues.
I blew it. I had
Yes.
3 too many drinks last night.
Yes.
I'm really sorry.
But what's really vulnerable is what you and I have chosen to walk in, and what you started that May, because it's vulnerable because it comes across at first. We excuse ourselves from not doing that because it seems like we're being needy.
Yeah.
Let that set in for a second, because I think that there's a lot of us, me included, who have
You especially.
me especially. Yeah. I mean, dude, today, just
That's right.
you offering to buy me something. And I'm just like, no, dude, like it's weird for me to accept that. And obviously I'm jobless right now.
Right.
And he's just doing it purely out of love. And hey, I'm going to give you this. And I can't do it because I feel like I'm a burden. I feel like I'm needy. And it's like, actually you lack humility to be able to put yourself in that place.
Yeah.
TD Jake says only big men go low.
Yeah. Well, it's easy to be. I used to make $90,000 a year in the corporate world. So if a bunch of young adults wanted to go out to eat, no problem. You have no money, no problem. Show up. In 2009, God told me to start working with young adults. And I had just gotten out of a company I helped start. I had only my 401k and that ran out. And then some other stuff ran out. For 4 years, I did that by faith. And that's when I began to understand it's the humble who receive.
Yes, that's good.
It's so much easier. I love being the giver.
Yeah. And it's the humble who will grow.
Yeah.
Because, and that's what I want to encourage somebody out there listening with is get past that lie.
Yep.
It is not needy to say you need help. You want connection. And so what if it's every day at 3:30 p.m.? Like we have so many, man, we have so many relationships, or a lot of us have people we're surrounded with that would love to be there. We just don't utilize it because we don't go there.
Yep.
And so we want to teach you simply like, here's some practical things to get you to a place, to get us to a place where we can walk this out.
And by the way, when we talk about these things, these are not things like we're not teaching you from way up here. We're actually walking in these things and failing.
And that's why I said, like, for today, for example, like that's your boy. And so here's just a few practical suggestions to get started. I think it's important first to evaluate your authenticity. Evaluate your rawthenticity. Like, how well are you truly known? How well are you truly known? Not spread out not known in a spread out way. Like, Mark knows this about me. My mom knows this about me. This person knows this about me. No. How well are you fully known?
Yeah. Is there anybody who knows all of your dirt? Like whenever you're sitting across from somebody, is there anybody who can go, actually what you did today is the same thing that you did 2 weeks ago. And then the week before that you did it. And a month before that, what's up with like these things happen?
Yeah.
What's going on when these things happen?
Yep. Another question. Do you have any secrets that you're afraid to be told?
Yeah. Do you have any secrets that nobody knows?
And the reason that matters is why. That's connected to our authority.
Right.
Because I'm not going to be confident. I'm not going to go forward. I'm not going to step into these incredible things that I think God's calling us to.
Right.
If I know there's something hidden in the dark.
Right.
Not going to go there.
You won't go for the job you should go for. You won't go for the girl or the guy you should go for.
Yep.
You'll step back from something that actually God created your DNA for.
Yeah.
Because you think you don't deserve it.
Yes, totally. Again, is there anyone who literally knows all of it? Ask yourself that. Another question. What price are you willing to pay to become an authentic person?
I had 2 people in my life in the late 90s. Rick Cole was my pastor in Omaha, Nebraska. And I was super transparent with him and even went into being known. We went to breakfast every Thursday morning at 6:30.
Yeah.
And he was like, Eric, why won't you call me when you're tempted to act out? And I still remember I was like, man, Rick, I don't know. And I actually didn't know.
Wow.
It was completely hidden from me. And then about 15 years later, or 15 years ago, a guy named Andre Pfizer, really offered himself as a mentor in so many ways. He showed so much interest.
Yeah.
But my authority, I had such a low view of myself, and he saw me for who I was and who I could actually be. But my perspective on myself, I had no authority because I had all these things I had never figured out. Like, why do I do this?
Yeah.
What does this response come from? So I backed away from amazing opportunities to actually walk out of the darkness. And the reason I tell those stories is because there are people around you all the time who actually offer you a hand, offer you like, here, walk with me. But I still remember Andre, when he finally got frustrated one time and he's like, bro, I'm trying to help you. But I was still so caught up in my darkness towards myself and how I saw myself. I didn't realize that was a hand I should have grabbed and held on because he was going to take me somewhere.
Wow. It's like when you don't walk in an authentic lifestyle,
when you're not known,
you'll have no authority. When you have no authority, you'll see doors as walls.
Exactly. And not only that, if you're not known, when you choose to be known, someone else can point out the truth. If it's the right person, someone else can point out truth about your DNA, what God actually called you to. Apostolically, this is where you should go, or they'll speak a prophetic word or something like that. But if you won't put yourself in those circles and you have a small life, no one can help you until you have the courage to go for it.
And so here's the question. So another one, do you have anybody in your life that you feel safe around that you can tell these things to? If you do, why do you feel safe around those people? Ask yourself some of these questions. If you don't, ask yourself if maybe there's something that you're doing that's keeping these people at an arm's distance. There's a lot of things that I realized I had access to that because I was closed off so much to emotion, closed off to any sort of intimacy or connection, that everything that people were reaching out to me with, I was subconsciously turning away. Because to me, I'm like, it's cheesy. And I missed a lot of opportunity. What resources do you have to help you move toward being a more authentic person? Think about it. I mean, life coaches, are there friends? Are there people who are challenged, pastors, counselors? Think about some resources and people that you look up to. And
books. Like if you go to a certain group that you don't feel good, every time you leave, you feel rotten about yourself, pick another group.
Yeah. And that's not out of bitterness. It's just...
go find something that breathes life into you.
Yeah. Make some changes. You have that opportunity now. And then what is the box that keeps you silent and paralyzed? Go deeper in that.
Well, I have had all kinds of boxes. I think sometimes it's easy when you experience a lot of pain and a lot of rejection. It's easy to make assumptions or stereotype people. And so that can be a box. I'm not going to be in this environment because that's dangerous for me. One of my sons has been through a ton of abuse, and he has a hard time coming into community. For myself, I think it was, I knew how to lead. I knew how to organize. I knew how to administrate and apostolically have vision for a ministry and work all the pieces at the same time. I knew how to meet with people one-on-one and just saw some really amazing things happen in their lives. But I never knew how to just follow my own breadcrumbs out of the black forest for myself. And so my box was being a spiritual father, or I needed to make sure that I was transparent, because people out of integrity's sake, needed to know every time I failed, which wasn't all the time. But if I did have some, whatever slip up I felt like I had, I needed to communicate that. But I never went out of that box to actually develop what's God's vision for me as a person and my value completely separated from the things I feel like I have to admit and transparency.
That's so good. That's so good. And so, I mean, for you, I feel like we're just right now, like for some of you who are in that box, I feel like now is a divine moment.
So
God is calling you out of your shell. He's calling you out of the protected bubble. And when we talk about Insta glory, we're not talking about trying to make yourself just look good physically. We're talking about, man, I don't want to let anybody in.
Or down.
That was me. That's been me. That's me today, and something I'm choosing to walk through. But there is such a freedom. I pray that everybody has an opportunity to have an Eric Waterbury in their life. I believe that God will provide that for you. I think that this is a step toward that. But God is inviting you right now into a spirit of truth. I'm going to pray for you before you leave that you'd have the courage to step into that, to walk out of the box, to break agreement with the things, maybe even some family cultures, things you grew up with that just says, hey, this is what I'm used to. This is how we do life. This is how we do emotions. And as I pray, I'm just believing that the Holy Spirit's going to give you a courage to step out.
Wait, before you pray, if you're a boomer or if you're in your 40s or 50s, I pray 60s, 70s. I have a dad who's in his 80s, and he's the youngest dude I know.
Yeah.
So I just pray that you'll have a Rylie Silva, or all of us. I'm not the only relationship he has that's significant. He's not my only relationship that's significant, but our relationship has been a powerful change agent. So if you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and you're like, wow, I'm getting to the end of my career, and what kind of a legacy am I going to leave? Your life is not even over. I'm personally planning to live 40 more years. So I'm working to be pretty active in that. But I just want to encourage you. The biggest thing you can do is begin to ask God, what would I need to do to be known as I truly am and to be useful in passing something on to the next generation?
Yeah. So God, we just thank you. We thank you for every ear that's listening, God, every heart represented. And God, I just pray that there would be right now a courage that would rise up on the inside of every single person that is gathering in these sound waves. And God, that through these microphones, Lord, something would transmit into who they are, their very being, God, and there would be a desire, Lord, that they would just begin to desire truth, the truth that will set us free. Lord, that you would begin to right now divinely surround them with people that they can walk in full transparency with, not just for accountability, God, but for their life, Sunday to Sunday. And I just pray right now, Lord, that there would be a revelation that people would actually begin to be brought up into their minds. Lord, that they'll begin to see people pass by their eyes right now that are safe. Lord, that they can talk to, they can confide in, that won't leave them, that won't judge them based on a struggle. And Lord, I pray that this simple podcast would set something loose in the spirit that would break the Insta glory culture and would invite followers of Christ everywhere to walk in complete and full freedom. We claim that. We claim victory over their life. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you guys again for joining us. We'll see you next time. Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out our podcast.
Yeah, we're not actually here to debate. We're just here to make you think.
Yep. We actually don't think we have all the answers, but we just love having the conversation. So do us a favor, hit subscribe. If you liked it, share it. Give us a like. If you didn't like it, no
That's
problem.
okay.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah.